Time and time again, we have seen content creators from the Mormon bubble exist on the internet in order to push their propaganda from a religious perspective, but it's always through Tradwife, aesthetic. This is the Nara Smiths of the world, except this is not Nara Smith. This is Courtney Joel. And Courtney kind of went viral recently. Now, just disclaimer, I did have to upload her video onto my YouTube channel. I'm going to delete it right after this just because her audio and her initial TikTok is really, really low. So I just uploaded it. You can see the title is Princess Treatment Volume. I just uploaded it temporarily onto my channel. I'll delete it after because, her TikTok is just the lowest volume. You wouldn't have been able to hear it otherwise. But this TikTok went viral. People are talking about it. I just want to say, one, she is rage baiting you to go viral, to push an agenda, and to convince girls who are young, who have not deconstructed the patriarchy, that the patriarchy will serve them via the princess treatment. And this coincides perfectly with Mormonism, which coincides perfectly with the fact that we are doing the Mormon Wives right now. So, we do philosophy through pop culture, as you guys know, and there's nothing that trends better than patriarchal branding. Like, this is so the patriarch. This is like, imagine a bunch of men in a room trying to decide how to get girls on board with the patriarchy. It's like convince them that they want to be treated like a princess or they want to be treated like a whore. Those are the two options in the patriarch bubble. Do you want to be treated like a princess or a whore? If you want to be treated like a princess, shut up and do what we say. If you want to be treated like a whore, shut up and do what we say. It's a bit of a humor, it's a joke. But it is, I think, created with a lack of compassion in many ways because these women are setting up these young girls, and it's a very binary gender perspective, like they're setting them up for failure. Let's watch the video together. It's a bit long. It's about 5 minutes. And we'll talk about it. And then I have other videos I want to show you in contrast to this.
Let's talk about princess treatment if you're at a restaurant and how you interact with the waitstaff and the hostess. If I am at a restaurant with my husband, I do not talk to the hostess. I do not open any doors, and I do not order my own food. So someone had sent me a message a couple weeks ago asking about, like, let's say your husband drops you off and he goes to park the car, what do you do? Or if it's raining or something like that, and he wants you to put your name down. And I had a very similar situation happen to me with my husband a couple weeks ago. I'll put her question on the screen so you can see exactly what she's saying.
That situation, what do you do when he drops you off before parking the car? Usually this happens because it's raining or cold. So the point is for me to step inside quickly to avoid my discomfort. And in this instance, do you just go ahead and handle the interaction with the host or hostess since you're standing right there? Like, literally, she's putting out content that is making people then respond with, yes, but what about this scenario? Because I'm not sure how to be treated like a princess what if it's raining? And I'm just sitting here like, what is this? What fantasy are you playing out? Because, we got to accept that like real life is happening around us. And throughout, and this is so classism is playing a huge role in this. Throughout history, women have always worked and contributed. Even in my family where they claimed like women should be stay-at-home moms, all the women I know worked. My mother was working when my father met her and she worked. You know what I mean? Like, what are we talking about? My mom works now. Like, what are you talking about? So my mom didn't work while she was raising the kids, but once the kids were independent, my mom was back to work. So I don't know what we're talking about. When people are like, oh, I want to be a traditional wife, I want to stay at home. Do you mean that you want to do half of the labor by staying at home so you don't pay for daycare? Sounds like a good idea. Or do you mean because of your gender, you think you should be at home, even though you're working right now and collecting a paycheck? Because, don't get it twisted, girls. This girly right here is trying to boost her page. But this is really what's interesting. She makes commissions based off of you buying her linked affiliate products. And these are expensive products, right? Like, these are expensive products, $310 for pants. So they're luxury items, right? So she is making money off of this. She's not just like a stay-at-home wife who's minding her business. She's a stay-at-home mom who's trying to make a living pushing a stay-at-home mom rhetoric, just like Laura Smith, just like the rest of them, just like Ballerina Farm, just like all the other Mormons. And even the Mormon Wives show, it's this narrative, right, where they are modern Mormon wives. They want to question the patriarchy. They want to be more independent, and the church isn't very happy with them. But don't get it twisted that this isn't people with money who are pushing an agenda to go viral, to anger you, to then make more money off your anger. And this is what's so annoying to me is like, this isn't even genuine. if she was genuinely a stay-at-home mom, genuinely loved being a mother, genuinely didn't work, then I'd be so interested in hearing her life perspective. It's like Candace Owens going on Jubilee recently and saying the greatest job a mother or a woman could do is like stay at home with her kids. And then the women who confronted Candace was like, we would love it if you would be a stay-at-home mom. Get off the internet. But she is on the internet. She does have a job. She does come to work. So the same women that are telling you the best job you can have as a woman is to stay at home and give up your independence are women who aren't doing it themselves. It's a scam. And it's a scam. I don't know why they're doing it except for money and status, but it is not real. And so be very careful.
And he wanted to run in and see. We didn't have a reservation. He wanted to run in. Well, we didn't have a reservation, so we wanted to go up and see if it was possible for us to get in. He pulled the car up at the valet station. I stayed in the car. He got out of the car, told the valet, I'm just going to run in and ask a question. I'm going to leave my car here. I sat in the car while he ran.
I'm putting it at 1.2.
In and asked them. They said, yeah, we have space for you. And my husband said, okay, I'm going to go get my wife, and then I'm going to park the car. So he comes back out, opens my car door, walks me into the restaurant, opens the door, and I stand and wait. I did not make eye contact with the hostess. I did not talk to her. I waited until my husband came back. He comes back, does the exchange with her, and then we went and sat down.
So no eye contact with the hostess, no interacting, no ability for the hostess to say, how can I help you in a real way? It's just super weird. Like, why are you being so weird? You know what I mean? Like, you're being such a rude person. And this is why even in BDSM, because I'm going to talk about BDSM in a second, because now the Tradwives are using day callers. Don't even get me started. Okay. But they want a fantasy and they're playing it out in public, and it's not cohesive with the reality of life. And I know a lot of people were saying like, oh, it's the way she quote treats the help. And she's going to say in this very video, it's not about that, but it's playing into that narrative. It is in some way playing into the I am better than you, even though she says it's not about that, because I won't even treat you like a person. Because in what context do you not greet a person you are standing next to? I mean, I tend to greet people that are literally all strangers in my neighborhood so they know I'm not a crazy person. You know what I mean? Like, either avoid eye contact and be nice and don't give them a space to be socially awkward, or when you make eye contact, smile and let people know you're not a threat. So it's just rude. Like, either way, it's culturally rude. And it feels like it's one thing to have a fantasy amongst yourselves or a lifestyle decision or a standard of expectation in terms of behavior between you two, but to bring it into other people's lives, to force it onto other people is so obnoxious, especially since conservatives always accuse gay people of doing this. But gay people are more than happy to greet waitstaff. So what are we talking about here?
Let's say it's raining. You already have a reservation, okay? Your husband's going to pull you up to the restaurant. He's going to get out, open your door. He's going to walk you to the restaurant door, open the door, and walk you in. He's probably then going to leave to go park the car, or he's going to go exchange whatever he needs to do with the valet. You're just going to stand in the lobby or whatever the space is, and you're going to wait for your husband to come back. You're not going to go up to the hostess and give the reservation name. You're not going to talk to her. This isn't out of like a, I'm better than them and I don't need to talk to them and I don't need to, I'm not like a, it's not in any sense like you're better than the hostess. You're just letting your husband lead and be masculine.
You're letting your husband lead and be masculine at the expense of mistreating the waitstaff, at the expense of mistreating anybody you're sitting next to. And that's when you have to make a decision socially. This is the extrospective part. You can play your fantasy in public as long as it doesn't come at the expense of the public. So if you want to engage with secretly wearing, a butt plug in public, I don't care as long as that butt plug doesn't become other people's issues. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, if I never know you have a butt plug in, I don't care, because you're getting off on the, ooh, nobody knows I have a butt plug in. Don't care. But if you make it my business and you make it my problem, now we might have a problem, right? If your kink or your fantasy is exposing yourself in public and shocking other people, I think it's bad. It's not consent based. I think it's wrong. And I think this is kind of equivalent. It's maybe not completely analogous, but I think it's pretty much there, where like you want to play your little fantasy, but it's coming at the expense of somebody in the public, and it's so unnecessary. The world is already so divided. The world already feels like everybody is so rude. I don't know why you're contributing to it. Now, if we lived in a culture where there was an introvert supermarket where everything was self-checkout and people barely had to socialize, and it was like it was custom made grocery store vibes, but we don't live in that world. And so there's just social expectations that we have to do for one another to signal safety, right? Like, somebody said the other day, like, do you like small talk? It's not about liking it. It's about utilizing it as a tool to signal to somebody else you're safe and not, quote, dangerous, right? You don't want to be dangerous to people, right? Chet says, what about Princess Di, feminine princess who was kind to everyone? Well, Princess Di was considered quite rebellious. The family hated her. They hated that she went out of her way to be nice to people. They hated that she was social with people. They hated. She was the first person in royalty to shake hands with somebody with like HIV or AIDS, right? Like she constantly pissed off the royal family for being not feminine enough, right? She was constantly caught hanging out on the farm and like neglecting her duties because she didn't want to be that person. So I would actually argue that Princess Di was not feminine enough in this toxic femininity way, but that's why we loved her. That's why people loved her, because she rebelled against this exact bullshit that women everywhere have already come to the consensus that generally speaking, it's bad for us. And it is bad for us. And it's also not real. It's not real. She's not giving you a reality. She is selling you a fantasy that she herself knows is not real, but she's pretending on the internet that it is to rage bait everyone into reacting. And here we are. But I just want to make sure you guys know it's not real. But the cycle will continue. I'm going to make money off this video. She's going to make money off this video. We're all going to make money off of reacting to something that's so silly. I would be so much more interested in listening to an authentic person living a true tradwife life who talks about the ins and outs, the good and bad, the benefits and lack of benefits to the situation. So we could actually learn like, how plausible is this for some of us? I know that had my partner and I decided to have kids, they would have been the stay-at-home partner and I would have continued to do YouTube full-time because I love my job. I love being a creative and I wouldn't have given it up because I would have made sure that my partner stayed home. I would have preferred not to put my kids in daycare. I would have preferred a lot of things, right? I have a very specific expectation for what I would have wanted for a child, and it would have included having a stay-at-home partner, but not because of their gender, but because I just feel like if I'm going to bring a person into the universe, I would like them to spend as much time as possible bonding with the people who brought them into the universe until they're ready after 5 years to go to school, 4 or 5 years, whatever it is. It's like that would be the ideal, right? I feel like the ideal is to socialize your kids appropriately. The ideal is to give them attention by the people who created them. The ideal is to give them a village. The ideal is to do a lot of things, right? But I think in these situations, there's just like a narrative of an ideal that isn't even actually happening. Like you're not even doing it. And by the way, I don't have kids. We decided not to have kids because we couldn't even reach that ideal. So what was the point? Like she's not even reaching her. This is why Nara Smith drives me crazy. Nara Smith is a full-time model. Her husband works. They're both working people. So the narrative of like, I'm a trad wife, I stay home and be pretty and make food. No, you don't. You're a full-time content creator and model. They have money. They have nannies. They have people helping. Like, why are we, you know what I mean? I just don't want you to fall for it, especially if you're a young person and you think like, you know, you're 15 to 22 and you're like, this is what I want. They don't even have what they are saying they have. You know what I'm saying? I just don't want you to live for something that's so silly. And it doesn't even make sense. Even if it was attainable, why do you want it? It's going to get old. Trust me. You think it's kinky. I've done enough DS in my life. I've done enough BDSM scenes in my life where I'm the submissive and I got a little collar and I'm silent and I show up and it's fun for a night. It's fun for a weekend. It's fun for a moment, but then real life kicks in and you're like, okay, girl, we got to pay the electric bill. Everybody relax. Or, hey, I want to go out with my friends and I'm certainly not going to be silent sitting with my friends. Or, hey, I'd like to just be kind to this stranger on the road. And what, I'm not supposed to talk to them because I need the princess treatment? Like, sounds like slave treatment to me. So maybe I'm wrong, but in my bubble, her princess treatment is slave treatment, you know, like concubine slave, like sexist slave.
Made the reservation. He's taking you out. Let him do the logistics. You're just being a princess. It's not because you're being hoity-toity. You're just letting your husband lead and letting him take care of it. So if I don't even know another situation where you would need to be dropped off, usually there's a valet so you can both get out together.
Usually there's a valet. Who's usually? Usually there's a valet. Girl, I ain't going to no places with valets. You know what I'm saying? Money. This is the fantasy of money. This is the fantasy of never worrying. This is the fantasy of going in and buying a Birkin without looking at the price. Like, this is silly. It's silly. It's shallow. It's fully capitalism. It's just the most greedy, superficial bubble I've ever seen. And it's so greedy and so superficial, and then has the audacity to be like hashtag Jesus or hashtag God or hashtag humility or hashtag tradition.
But again, like, you don't need to feel awkward about it. Another huge part of the princess treatment is, I don't know if we specifically talked about this, but the over need to like talk and fill space. Like, you don't need to talk unless you are spoken to. And then if you are spoken to and ask, you can just say, oh, I'm just waiting for my husband, and then he'll be able to give the reservation. Or you can say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm not sure. My husband will be back, and then you can ask him. You can say it in a very soft and feminine way. I know this is going to be ripped apart. People will just take things seriously such the wrong way, but that's how I would handle it. And then let's just go further into, so if you're sitting down, you're ordering. In New York, for the most part, the waiter would come up, they would ask, whatever, my husband would start to speak, and then the waiter would address them, and the waiter would get the hint, and only then interact with my husband.
Oh, brother, because the waiter's sitting there like, I don't know, you guys are freaks. Discourse says one of the other podcasts I linked covering this mentioned that the lady shops for her own groceries too, despite the whole princess treatment thing. And it gives me the vibe that she's new money who wants to pretend she's old money. I saw those videos and she was shopping at Whole Foods. Yeah, new money is eye rolling, but also old money might pretend to be new money on the internet, since the internet thinks new money is like very interesting. I feel like the internet, certain pockets of it really love old money stuff. But I just want to remind everybody that if you're pro-liberation and pro-people and pro-planet and pro-animal, you cannot glorify and desire old money. Old money has come at the expense of minorities throughout history. Old money is very, very toxic. It is very, very bad. And so this romanticization of old money, just say you're racist, like just say you're homophobic, like just say you're shitty, just say you want to uphold the patriarchy. There is nothing wholesome or good about old money. It's like, I wouldn't, this idea and this dream of like, I want old money to marry me, girl, stay away from me and keep whatever mafia like weirdness you have going on leave me alone. No, thank you. Okay. And then new money is flashy and superficial and toxic. Like, new money is irresponsible, right? New money doesn't stay. That's why old money thinks it's they look down on it, because new money lasts and then it's gone, because most new money people spend it. So it's like, whether she's old money or new money, she's money. And that alone it doesn't have a place in a belief around liberation. You know what I mean?
Here in Salt Lake, they don't quite get it. I think they think that I'm like being, oppressed, or I don't know. They'll be like, what can I get you to eat? And I will just look at my husband. Like, if they address me first, I will just look at my husband and let my husband order. He'll say, oh, she's da 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 da. And then if they have a follow-up question, like, oh, do you want it like this? Sometimes I will answer. Let's say I think maybe my husband doesn't know what I would want. I will then address the waiter. But it's almost like they keep trying to like get me to speak. And I'm like, no, I want him to order for me. I like when he orders for me.
Yeah, like, you fill out your fantasy at a consensual dungeon. I've been there. I've done dungeon fantasy play where, my partner orders for me, does the whole thing. It's really fun for a night. It's a nightmare 24/7. And anyone who says otherwise is exactly like those BDSM couples that are like, we do kink 24/7. You're crazy. Grow up. Do you know what I mean? Like, grow up. Like, you are putting the waiter and everybody around you in this awkward situation for what reason? Just go to like a weird DS night, go to a dungeon, do your role play, and come home.
It's not that I'm not capable of ordering for myself. It's just fun. It's just a fun princess treatment thing. It makes me feel special. It makes me just feel like over the top taken care of. So if the waiter addresses you first, I will simply just look at my husband, and my husband will order. Again, you don't need to over speak, over exert yourself. You can be feminine and soft and quiet. The most elegant, lovely women are often soft-spoken and don't overspeak. They're not loud. Maybe let's also talk about that. You're not going to be laughing loudly, speaking loudly, demanding the attention of the room when you're at a restaurant. You're with your husband, your boyfriend, whoever, fiance. You're speaking to him, eye contact with him.
Listen. Listen. Okay? Listen. All right? Don't listen. Listen. This feels sexist, racist, patriarchal. This feels like the exact people that call me a man. Joke's on them. But listen, okay? This is the problem, where there is a difference between being loud and rude at a restaurant, okay, and just being joyous and loud. If you're joyful and loud, I'm here for it. If you're obnoxious and loud, I'm going to be like, hey, you, nobody needs to hear this story. Because sometimes there is a difference, and the difference is not this. She is saying joyful loud, also bad. And I want you to hear the subtext of that. Even when you're joyful and loud, she's saying that's a bad thing. Because she's saying the most proper way to be is, and yeah, maybe the places you go, but that's why we call people like you pretentious. Like there's just a standard of pretentiousness here that I'm not about. I don't like it. I don't think it's healthy. And I don't think it's good for people. I don't think it's good for children. I certainly don't think it's good for society. Pretentious.
The attention is kind of on him. You're not laughing so loudly that everyone in the room is looking at you, or speaking so loudly that everyone in the room is looking towards you. You take the napkin, put it in your lap immediately. You're not waiting. You're not, oh, sorry. You know what I mean? Oh, another thing, at the coat check, let's say it is raining, you have a coat on. Don't go up and wait and ask for the coat check. Wait for your husband. Let's say your husband's dropped you off early. Wait for your husband to come back, and then he can take your coat off and give it to the coat check. So anything really, you're just waiting for your husband to do it. And again, it's not because you can't. It's not because you're not able to, and it's not because you're better than anybody. It's just the fun part of being that princess, of being that feminine.
I agree. And I want to say this again. I want you to hear me. I agree it's fun for a night. But I'm telling you, this will be a nightmare if it's the rest of your life. But I'll give you an example. One thing I never really loved about my dad's parents, my paternal grandparents, is like my grandma was really religious all her life and really wanted to go to church every Sunday, but she never learned how to drive, which I always thought was like stupid. Okay. My grandpa, who did know how to drive, refused to take her to church every Sunday. And so other people would start to take her. And I'd be like, you should take your wife to church. This is bullshit. And this is like, okay, patriarchy. This is misogyny. This is like also him resenting God. But funny enough, when she died, boom, this man go to church every Sunday. And I said, bro. And I said, I was like, you could have taken your wife every Sunday to church. And that's the kind of stuff I don't appreciate about certain dynamics where you think it's all cute until like the thing you want to do is put aside because he doesn't want to do it. And that's what I'm saying. Like, this is not a team effort. And I love my grandparents. I think they were really in love with each other. But I think this is the way that my grandfather failed, because like he failed in this way, right? And that's why, you know, we needed some deconstruction. But then my grandma took it as like a sacrifice for God, which was also obnoxious. I just think it was obnoxious all around. And it's so interesting because my, you know, the ways that I grew up in my household, you know, my dad raised me to run a business, but also wanted me to be a stay-at-home mom. My mom says to me one time, she says to me, don't you think it's weird that so-and-so lets their wife drive when he's in the car with her? And I said, no. I said, look, she prefers to drive. He prefers not to drive. What does it matter? And she goes, I just think it's nice when your father drives me places. I feel like, you know, I'm being taken care of. And I was like, that's nice that you like that. But I usually like to drive. And I have most of my life, I've always been the main driver. And most of what I do with everybody is like, I'm driving. I prefer to drive. I like to drive. I also get motion sick, so I really don't like being a passenger. But I'm okay being a passenger with certain people for sure. But yeah, those are the kinds of things that my mom would say where I was like, that's stupid. That gender binary you're playing into is dumb, and projecting it onto other people is inappropriate. Like saying other people need to do it is inappropriate. There's nothing weird about a wife driving versus a husband. There's nothing weird about your kid driving or somebody else driving. Like, you're a grown up, you can drive, you know? I think it's just like this idea. Now, we also grew up in a world where like your elders had the front seat and kids sat in the back. And that one I understand a little bit more. Like, I kind of understand it a little bit more, where it would make sense for like my grandma to sit in the front and all the grandkids to sit in the back, because mostly the kids want to be together. But I also can understand that perspective of like when siblings fight for the front seat, it's like who gets to sit in the front. And though technically it'd be the older sibling, most of my siblings and I just decide who we want to sit next to. That's how we do it. We're like, I don't need the front seat. I just like usually I get the front seat as a passenger because I get motion sick. But if I didn't get motion sick, I'd probably sit in the back so I could be with the siblings. So it's just like a debate, like who gets the front seat, or you know what I mean? It just like, if my brother and his wife are there, she's going to get the front seat and I'm going to sit in the back with the kids, even though I get motion sick, because like she wants to stay with her husband. There's so much that goes into why we do what we do, but all of it is subjective and based off of the vibe. And I just feel like black and whiting it and saying that it has to be this way every time is always a mistake.
And letting your husband take care of you. You're already having to do so much. Your brain is constantly already on as a housewife, stay-at-home mom. You're running and managing so much. In those fun little moments, it's really just so lovely to let your husband do that for you. Anyways, again, long-winded.
Okay, so she says in those little moments, you're already stay-at-home mom, you're already stay-at-home wife, you're busy. In those little small moments, it's just kind of fun. I can agree if that's the construct she's curated, but the issue with calling it like housewife princess, that's her whole brand. She's got it right here. Housewife princess, you know, you shop her affiliate, she makes some money, whatever. Her whole thing's like USA, very white America, very snobby in my opinion, very just like not the vibe. And her whole thing is like, this one's like making my husband lunch. And the volume's really low in her videos, but she's like making my husband lunch and giving him not the princess treatment, because that's for me, but spoiling him on occasion with a sandwich.
So many questions.
See, her volume's so low, it's silly. So I think, again, for me, I'm just like genuinely in love with my partner and in my life. And we just want to be happy. We just want to have a good, long life together. We just want to be the couple from Disney's Up, okay? We want to live a long, happy life together. And no one is sitting around and talking about, you're a man, you do this. You're a woman, you do this. You're non-binary, you do this. You're gender fluid, you do this. Like, girls, please. Nobody's got time for that, okay? We're already neurodivergent enough. We're lucky if we figured out how to, you know, wake up at the same time every day. Okay. So it is just one of those things where I think this is like clickbait in some aspect or some sort of rage bait in some way. But I just want to say to young people, this isn't the life you think it is. It's not what you want. Okay. Chat says like, I love how she sees no middle ground between being a non-entity and being super loud, abrasive person. Like there's a happy medium. It's like, also we have different personalities. And also, can I be real with you? I think she's faking hers. I think she's a loud tomboy girly.
Hi guys.
She gives tomboy girly to me, and I don't believe her.
Cheers to 37 followers. I can't.
It's 37,000. She gives facade. I wouldn't even be surprised if she is doing this for herself because she's unhappy, because she just gets something about her is so masculine in a good way, in the way that I'm like, girly, why do I feel like you need to hang out with us? Like you need to be with a bunch of girlies that are a little bit more in their mask. I don't feel like feminine is her natural state of being. She's giving like a little bit autistic femme, you know? Discord says like tomboy girl faking princess treatment to cope. Well, faking princess treatment to adhere to the bubble. Because remember, she's Mormon, she's in Utah. They're playing into the patriarchal system, right? I think she might be mentally compromised in that adhering to the bubble sense. I don't know if she's being disingenuous, but I think she might be not honest with herself. Because like she's so pretty. She's pretty, but she's so strong. She is strong. Her energy is so topping from the bottom. She's such a strong, dominant force. What are you playing princess for? What are you playing princess for? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, why are you even pretending that you're not toppy in your relationship? You know what I mean? Like, why are we even pretending? And a lot of these girls feel that way to me. A lot of them feel like topping from the bottom. This next TikTok's crazy, bro. This is a stitch, but just like, check this out. Okay, hold on. So she says,
I'm a trad wife.
I'm a trad wife and I wear a day collar.
And I wear a day collar. My day collar is a daily sign of submission for us. It is where I am actively submitting to him.
Out here wearing a day collar, also known as a dog collar, like it's a symbol of holiness, but be so for real, because you're basically making kink content without even realizing it. That collar, that's not modesty. That's BDSM cosplay dressed up in Bible verses. You've stolen the aesthetic of a fetish culture, stripped out the consent, and now you're parading it around like it's some God-given virtue. That's not submission. That's sanctified subjugation, and it's harmful to women. You're glamorizing female obedience like it's a fairy tale, when in reality, it reinforces power imbalances, suppresses autonomy, and romanticizes control. And if you're so submissive and obedient, why are you broadcasting your little role play online instead of, I don't know, staying quiet and invisible like the role demands? If you really believe in obedience and modesty, then maybe take your fetish off the internet where actual children might see it, because forcing your kinks on an app with children is exactly what we call grooming, or is being seen and praised part of the fantasy too. Either way, it's not virtuous, it's just veiled kink.
Okay, I fundamentally disagree with that second half, like pretty hardcore. I don't know what the point she was making was. Like, I do not think it's like bad for kids to see day collars in the same way that I don't think it's bad for kids to see wedding rings. because they're subjective. I don't think all of BDSM is like, quote, fetish culture as it's transformed into like a full-on lifestyle. I don't necessarily like the way she feels like holier than thou, but at the same time, I get the energy. But I wanted to use this TikTok to have a larger conversation because I have been involved in the BDSM bubbles since I was like 22 and I'm 36 now. And I will say this, that I do think the best part about BDSM culture is that it is diverse and global. And there are tons of conservatives, religious people, Trump voters in the scene. And I think this idea that BDSM is progressive is actually not realistic, as a lot of BDSM practice has been deeply rooted in patriarchal constructs. And though modern day progressive BDSM is heavily focused on consent, you have to also be in the BDSM bubble that is focused on that consent. So some BDSM bubbles are not doing checklists, they're not doing STI testing, they're not having conversations. And the bubbles that I was raised in or came up in as an adult, I was lucky enough to come in to a very progressive and communicative and consent-based bubble. So there were checklists, there were conversations, there was negotiation, there was sobriety, there was like so much that went into the safety aspect. There were day callers versus night callers. I used to have, as a quote submissive, I used to have a day caller, I used to have a night caller, and they were vastly different. The day caller just looked like a necklace like this girl's. Let's go back to it so you guys can
I'm a Tradwife.
see it. You can kind of see, it's just a necklace basically. And yeah, I used to have something really similar. It was like a Tree of Life necklace that was like my day collar, and it was cute and I liked it. And it was basically like a wedding ring. That's what a wedding ring is, right? To the right people who see it, they know what it is. Like sometimes we'd be in the elevator and I'd see somebody with a collar and I'd look at them and I'd be like, and they'd be like, yes. And I'm like, cool. And like we would know we were part of the same bubble. That's the same thing a wedding ring is. Like to me, a collar is a wedding ring. The only difference is the kind of marriage you're practicing and the kind of kink you're practicing. So the kind of BDSM lifestyle you're practicing. And I don't think all people who practice BDSM are ethical. I don't think all people who practice or adhere to marriage culture are doing it in a consensual way. I just don't think it's black and white. And I think we try to make it that way. We try to say everybody should get married, that anyone who's in love should get married. The marriage isn't the point, is it? Like, but this symbol, like I do love wearing my wedding ring. I do love that my partner and I have the same wedding rings. We to one another, when nobody's looking, we get pretty giddy about the fact that we have like wedding rings and we're like, hee hee. And we're like really excited about being together. It's really significant for us that we're doing life together. It wasn't about, anything more than the commitment ceremony that we did to say like, I choose you and you choose me. And like, that's what we're doing. Right. But I think that, this narrative is somewhat correct. The first half of the video is correct in the sense that if you're a trad wife, then like, why are you on the internet? If you're submissive, like, why are we on the internet? Why are you pretending to be something you're not? Why are you marketing it this way? The second half, I think, was a little strange, and I do want to hear it just once again so I can understand better. I'm going to go back to it. Let's listen to this again.
And if you're so submissive and obedient, why are you broadcasting your little role play online instead of, staying quiet and invisible like the rule demands? If you really believe in obedience and modesty, then maybe take your fetish off the internet where actual children might see it, because forcing your kinks on an app with children is exactly what we call grooming.
Yeah, what is that line? What bubble is she in? That's like so wrong in so many ways. Like it's only wrong in that way because like, first of all, I don't follow any kid accounts on TikTok, and there are a lot of like BDSM content on TikTok that's perfectly appropriate. And if your kids find it, it's the internet. Your kid shouldn't be on TikTok. But also, I don't think posting like rope bondage on TikTok is like grooming children. I don't think posing like thirst traps on the internet is grooming kids, but they're obviously made for adults. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't like this narrative that she's just showing up in a collar and you're like, that's grooming kids. Like, what are you doing? Is she saying that wearing a collar, I don't know if she's trying to own this one religious girl or if she's applying this to other people. Are you saying wearing a wedding ring is pushing fetish content on kids? Are you saying wearing a collar is pushing fetish content on kids? And this is why I say, for me, like BDSM is more like a culture of relationship. It's not necessarily about a fetish or even a kink, even though a lot of it stems from that understanding of it. But I think that's so reductive. I just think it's reductive to think that leather is only about sex. Did we forget it's also about expression? It's like thinking drag is just about sex when it's not even about sex. Do you know what I'm saying? It feels weird to me. Do you guys have any thoughts on that? Like, is she just trying to own this girl? Yeah, so her tagline is, I make content to trigger men, conservatives, and pick-me's. I do think I am convinced that pick-me is a misogynistic label. I do think you might be a misogynist if you call women pick-me's, unless you're being absolutely academic about it. Unless you're being absolutely academic about calling somebody a pick-me, which I try to do very much, calling somebody a pick-me might actually just be misogyny. Yeah, I think I'm coming to that conclusion slowly over time. Chat says, is it an attempt to clap back on religious conservatives who often talk about grooming kids? Yeah, maybe. But then I think that's silly because it sets a narrative that our other communities are also doing that. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I don't think I like it when we clap back at bad ideas by perpetuating bad ideas. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that, actually. Yeah. Anyways, this is vintage TAWNI, #1, if you guys want to check her out. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. So all of this to say, princess treatment is a construct. It's a role play and a fantasy. You're allowed to engage with it in public as long as you don't force it on other people. You can do your kink in public as long as you're not forcing it on other people. And there are ways to do it. There are ways to be religious without you forcing it on other people. There's a way for you to be vegan without you forcing it on other people. We're actually pretty good at socializing with one another without pushing things onto each other, as long as we identify what pushing it onto other people looks like. And I think this is really important, right? So like, let's say you're doing a BDSM scene where you're not allowed to talk for 24/7, but then you're in a situation where a child's about to be hit by a car. Please tell me you are about to break the fantasy and scream for somebody to help that child, girl. You know what I'm saying? Like, if she's not supposed to talk to anybody and her husband's supposed to do everything, if she sees somebody having a heart attack, is she supposed to be like, I can't say anything, my husband hasn't spoken for me? Like, be realistic with how you're engaging in your fantasy and role play, whether it's for sex or it's just for mental exercise. Like, it's like taking a vow of silence. You know what I mean? As a meditative practice, not sex related, meditation related, and not screaming for help if you see somebody who's hurt. Like, break your vow of silence. Break your vow of silence. And I just feel like sometimes we're such bad thinkers that we don't really consider the situation. That's why in BDSM, if it's done right, you're supposed to construct an allowance for a safe word and to end the scene. You're supposed to allow for reality to step in and pause the role play you're doing because real life is interacting with you now. Okay. You can't take a vow of silence and then like call 911 and not speak to the operator because like you're in the middle of a scene. Do you know what I'm saying? Like it's just silly. It's a silly narrative. And I think we could be better than that as thinkers if we really try. And I feel like we're not trying because it's the internet, and the internet doesn't need you to be very smart for you to go viral or make a lot of money. And so everyone is just bottom, like the what's it called? The bar is in hell when it comes to even forming good ideas. And I don't know. I don't like it. Discord says, or not Discord, I'm sorry, YouTube chat says making fun of pick-me's is kind of paradoxical and horseshoes around to being misogynistic in my opinion, for sure. Like, I think it's really appropriate to categorize somebody as like literally, hey, I think you're having a pick-me problem, which been there, done that. We've all suffered from pick-meism. But it's this idea that like, I'm going to attack pick-me's. You're attacking women who have internalized misogyny and haven't deconstructed at the detriment of themselves and communities. You can hold people accountable while still understanding that they're suffering from internalized misogyny. They're literally suffering from the system that you're fighting against to dismantle. And you are literally not helping by, I guess, poking at the fact that they're victimized in this sense. But I understand because women uphold the patriarchy that they feel as accountable in many ways. And I think that's true to some extent, but you can hold people accountable without accidentally also tearing down women because you don't like the way they show up in the world. Like, there's just a way they do it that's better. But I think that I'm learning it too, because I understand the desire to be like, you're pick me in a bad way. And I see this from Manifestel's community. I am just critical of Manifestel's overall message. Look, Cardi B just put out a new album and she's got Shira 7 on the soundtrack. Sprinkle, sprinkle. Shira 7 is not the end goal, guys. If you think Shira is the epitome of what's correct in the world. Like, you are so damaged by the patriarchy and by misogyny. You are wounded. You need to go to therapy. Like, I love Shira as a meme. I think she's probably helping people come out of really destructive and toxic, relationships, just like Manifestel. But at the end of the day, this cannot be the end result. This cannot be the end of the road. It's too reductive. It's too stagnant. It's too reactionary. Do you know what I mean? And Cardi is incredibly damaged. She's been in a toxic relationship on and off. Her whole childhood was toxic. Her whole upbringing was bad. So she herself has a lot to work on. And I believe in her, and I want to believe in her ability to recover. But she obviously is going through it. So she certainly isn't the arbiter of all things wise, right? Like, no offense, she hasn't earned her wisdom. Like, Shira 7 hasn't earned her wisdom. Shira is giving women advice, that says all men will cheat. Like, how is this helpful? How is this helpful? Right? But I understand the journey. I'm here for it. I'm rooting for them to get better. But I just want you to know this is just like, it's a part of the journey, but it certainly isn't the end goal, right? Discord says I've been coming to the same conclusion about pick-me's. There's also a valid category for not like other girls, but I feel like sometimes people conflate autistic women having a real experience of not feeling like the other people around them versus feeling different and coping by feeling superior to other women due to internalized misogyny, which is what I feel like actually falls into the not like other girls category. Well, I'll say this. As I age, I move further and further away from any sort of woman construct. Like, as I age into my 40s, I feel less and less like a woman every day. And I think that's interesting. Now, of course, the irony of being a conservative is in some ways, if you create the standard of being a woman as a man under a specific construct, you will naturally make people trans, which is like a weird way to think about it. But like, as long as conservatives are saying there's only one way to be a man or a woman, I guess we're all trans. Because that's not how I feel. It's like, look, either we're all trans or fluid or going through these things, or we're all different variations. Or to be honest, even outside of the construct of conservatives, I actually just don't believe in gender very much. I think my life is just very fluid. Like, I really genuinely, that was a little bit of a joke of them making people trans, but I don't actually think the construct exists. I think it exists in the spirit of the moment you're existing in. But I don't think I think that's the thing. The fact that we don't know what a man or a woman is, even though we know what a man or a woman is, and both of those things can exist at the same time, that's kind of the point, right? Like, I feel like it's obvious to me what a man or a woman is, but it's also obvious to me what a non-binary person is or a gender fluid person is. But it's only as obvious as I know an autistic person when I see one, which is impossible to actually know by just looking at people. So what I'm really communicating is my autistic brain is picking up on a pattern, and the data points are making me come to a conclusion that may or may not be correct. Now, sometimes I'm correct and sometimes I'm not. I remember one time I was hanging out with this girl, very talented girl, knew her years ago. And I asked her pronouns when I first met her, and she got her feelings were really hurt because she is a more masculine presenting woman, though to me, she's obviously a woman, but I just wanted to ask in case I was wrong. And she was like, that really hurts my feelings because my whole life people have thought I was a man because I'm really tall. But I understand you're just asking me because it's something you ask people. And I said, I'm really sorry because I never want you to feel, but I thought you were a woman. I thought those were your pronouns, but I just wanted to confirm because what if? And, that's going to happen sometimes, right? It's going to happen sometimes. Or like one time I was in a drive-through with a friend and the person's voice came on. I ordered my coffee and I was like, thanks, girl. See you at the window. And my friend was like, how do you know it's a girl? And I was like, it's a girl. I can tell. And my friend wasn't sure because the voice sounded a little bit more androgynous. We came to the window. It was a girl. She looked fabulous, makeup on point. I complimented her nails. We giggled back and forth. And it was a trans woman. And I feel like in that moment, my friend was like relieved I had gotten it correctly, but I think more or less the woman was relieved that I identified her correctly. And had I misidentified her, that would have hurt her feelings. But I think in those moments where you identify people correctly, and you're right, it feels good for both parties. It feels good for me for understanding the social situation. It feels good for them for being seen. But I can see why everybody has anxiety in relation to like, what if you misgender somebody? Which is actually why I think a lot of conservatives are incredibly anxious around queer people because they actually don't want to be put in that position. I genuinely think some conservatives are so afraid of misgendering somebody that they'd rather die. And that's why they panic. That's why they freak out. They're like, oh, no, they like fumble because it's a socially uncomfortable situation. I think that's why Tradwives And this narrative around social scripting is so important for people because they just want to get it right. And I think we forget how hard it is because we live in such a liberated bubble here in my little space on the internet. We forget maybe how seriously scary it is for everybody to misspeak or misscript, you know? I think we just forget. And I just want to remind people that keeping those standards is unnecessary anxiety you're giving yourself. There are plenty of standards we should keep when socializing, like please and thank yous, good manners, generally speaking. But a lot of the scripts we put on ourselves are so unnecessary, and they're giving a lot of us anxiety, including conservatives. Yes, Chet says, is that some form of perfectionism? I think it is. I think it's some form of living to a standard that's a part of the fantasy of perfectionism. When I was younger, my friend went to a cotillion class and she invited me. And my mom's like, you should go. And I was like, I don't want to go to some fucking cotillion class. I'm like 14 or 13, I don't remember. And I showed up and it was like, ladies sit like this and men sit like this. And I was such an obnoxious teenager when I was a kid. I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I was like sitting with my legs open. I was sitting with my legs crossed. And they're like, Brittany, women don't sit that way. I was like, this one does. When it got to the dancing portion, I was the leader. And they're like, women don't lead. I was like, this one does. Because I disliked that idea that because I was a woman, I had to adhere to some sort of standard. And I was obnoxious. They told me that cotillion doesn't feel like a fit for me. And they did not invite me back. But my friend loved it. Now, it's funny. My friend loved it because she liked Pride and Prejudice, and I hated it, even though I loved Pride and Prejudice. I'm sorry, are we reading the same Pride and Prejudice? Because when I read Pride and Prejudice, I see Elizabeth as a rebel. Okay? When she read Pride and Prejudice, she was like, I want to be the girls who follow suit and play the role. And I saw Pride and Prejudice, and I was like, I'm Elizabeth. So isn't that funny? Like when we both loved Pride and Prejudice for two different reasons. Isn't that amazing? I think Pride and Prejudice sounds fun because I want to do what I want with like a cute dress or like a cute aesthetic or like the part of the relationship with nature. What is man? To rocks and mountains, right? Like what is like are mountains and trees? What's the quote? The point is that I think there's something to be said about why we do what we do. And do we realize why we're doing it? And do we recognize when something isn't objective and that it's just a fantasy? Play out your fantasies. Just do them in a reasonable way. And I just feel like this whole bubble about princess treatment is so unreasonable, and it is setting a standard that is going to fail lots of people, and including the people who are making the content. I refuse to believe this woman is joyful. She feels like a top waiting to get out. Girl, go dominate. Go dominate. You just know Nara Smith is topping from the bottom. You just know. What's her husband's name? You just know he's a bottom. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, but they keep pushing content into the world as if there is something wrong with that. And there isn't. Lucky, is that his name? There's nothing wrong with being a bottom. There's nothing wrong with being a switch. There's nothing wrong with being a top. There is something wrong with saying because you were born a gender, you must adhere to this standard. There is something wrong with that. And I think we all know that.